Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal. As Marty sat in Drew's living room, his fingers trembling slightly as he grasped the strange, old-fashioned envelope beneath the couch, he had no idea that this seemingly innocuous discovery would unlock a Pandora's box of secrets, betrayals, and long-forgotten family history. The envelope, yellowed with age and creased at the edges, stood out against the otherwise neat surroundings of Drew's living room. The faded handwriting on the front, scrawled in colored pencil, was not something he would have expected from a family as polished and established as the Quartermaines. The messy strokes seemed almost frantic, as though the writer was in a rush, trying to hide the true intent of their words. Inside the envelope, Marty found a letter written in a hasty, almost desperate hand. The letter wasn't just an ordinary piece of correspondence. It was a haunting piece of history that had been buried beneath years of secrets. And though it wasn't clear who the author was, Marty could sense the weight of the message within. It was addressed to Monica Quartermaine, but its contents revealed something much more ominous than a simple note to a loved one. As Marty skimmed over the letter, the words began to come alive. It was a heartfelt message, yes, but it was also an ominous warning. It detailed Monica's declining health, yes, but more shockingly, it delved into the much darker corners of her past, corners so deeply hidden that not even her closest family members knew of them. The letter spoke of decisions Monica had made long ago, choices that were designed to protect her family but at a cost that would now, years later, threaten to destroy them. The writer, in an almost pleading tone, revealed that Monica had always carried a heavy burden. A past full of mistakes, betrayals, and dark alliances. These were secrets she had sworn to keep hidden, but now, someone knew, and they were determined to reveal them. The letter made it clear, Monica's past was not just some distant memory, it was a ticking time bomb, ready to go off. The writer warned of the terrible consequences that would unfold if this secret was ever exposed. What was so catastrophic about her history that it would tear apart the family if it ever came to light? Marty's heart raced as he realized just how deeply this letter could shake the very foundation of the Quartermaine dynasty. Drew, who had been so tense and nervous about the letter's contents, begged Marty to throw it away. His voice, though steady on the surface, betrayed a deeper anxiety. But Marty couldn't bring himself to do it. His curiosity, his deep-seated need to know the truth, overpowered his hesitation. What could be so dangerous that Drew wanted it buried forever? Marty read on, his mind reeling with the implications of each new sentence. The writer had clearly been someone who knew Monica intimately, someone who knew about the difficult choices she had made, choices that she had hoped would never come back to haunt her. When Marty finally reached the end of the letter, a chilling realization swept over him. The letter wasn't just a warning about Monica's health. It was a message that revealed how the past would now come crashing into the present, threatening everything the Quartermaine family had built. The consequences of Monica's hidden past would ripple out, affecting everyone, from her children to her distant relatives, and most notably, the future of the Quartermaine estate. The letter wasn't just a message of concern, it was the spark that would ignite a series of events that would tear the family apart. Unable to bear the weight of this revelation alone, Marty made the fateful decision to share the contents of the letter with Drew. As they both read through the unsettling details, the gravity of the situation became apparent. The secrets Monica had so desperately tried to conceal were about to be exposed, and with them, everything that the Quartermaines held dear was at risk. Drew's mind raced as he realized that the family's entire foundation was built on lies and half-truths. The very things Monica had done to protect them were now coming to light, and those secrets were far darker than anyone had ever imagined. Tracy, the calculating and ever-ambitious member of the Quartermaine family, immediately recognized the opportunity this situation presented. When she first learned of the secrets contained in the letter, her mind went into overdrive, calculating the best way to turn this crisis to her advantage. She had always been a shrewd and ruthless player in the family's power struggles, but now, with Monica's secrets on the verge of being exposed, she saw an opening. Tracy knew that the Quartermaine family fortune was at stake, and the moment was ripe for her to claim it. For years, Tracy had watched as Monica, in her own way, built the Quartermaine legacy. She had seen Monica's influence grow, and in turn, had seen her own power diminish. But now, with the letter revealing the cracks in Monica's carefully constructed life, Tracy knew that she could use these revelations to her advantage. She had always wanted control of the Quartermain estate, and now, with this newfound leverage, she could make it happen. Tracy wasn't just after Monica's position as head of the family, she wanted it all. She saw the discord that was sure to follow once these secrets became public knowledge, and she wasted no time in positioning herself as the leader of the Quartermain family. Drew, who had always thought of himself as the rightful heir to the family's wealth and influence, was now facing an uphill battle. Tracy, with her cunning and calculated moves, was quickly undermining his position. But it wasn't just Drew who found himself at odds with Tracy's machinations. Jason, the other presumed heir to the Quartermain fortune, also found himself in a precarious position. For years, he had been the one to bear the weight of the Quartermain legacy on his shoulders. He had always believed that he was the true heir, but now, with the secrets of Monica's past coming to light, everything he thought he knew about his family was being called into question. The revelations about Monica's past not only shattered his view of his mother but also placed his future as the family's patriarch in jeopardy. Jason's anger simmered as he watched Tracy inch closer to taking control of everything he had worked for. The family that he had once fought to protect was now being torn apart by betrayal and ambition. The quiet, stable legacy that Monica had tried to build was now crumbling under the weight of her past mistakes. Jason found himself trapped in a war for the Quartermain fortune, one that he had never anticipated but one that now seemed inevitable. As Tracy tightened her grip on the family estate, Drew found himself pushed to the sidelines, no longer in control of his own destiny. The estate he had once thought was his birthright now seemed out of reach, as Tracy's ambition knew no bounds. The family, once united by blood and shared history, was now fractured, torn apart by the very secrets that had been kept hidden for so long. The power struggles within the Quartermain family intensified as these revelations tore at the fabric of their relationships. Monica's once untouchable position as matriarch was now in question, and with each new piece of information that came to light, the family was forced to confront its darkest secrets. The battle for control of the Quartermain legacy had begun, and no one, not even the family's most powerful members, would be spared from the fallout. Jason stood at the edge of the chaos, unable to escape the overwhelming sense of betrayal that hung thick in the air. His heart raced, a bitter taste of rage and disbelief clouding his thoughts as he watched Tracy slip further into the role of the Quartermain family's undisputed leader. It was an image Jason never thought he would see. Tracy, his cousin, the woman who had spent so many years challenging his every move, now standing victorious over the very empire he had worked so hard to protect. The power that had once been in his grasp, the family that had been his to protect and nurture, was slipping away in front of his eyes. The reality of it all was almost too much to process. For Jason, the Quartermain family had always been more than just a last name. It was home. It was where he found his identity. It was where he had poured everything into, sometimes at great personal cost, believing that, no matter the hardships or betrayals, loyalty would always be the bond that held them together. But now, it was clear that loyalty had become a currency of the past. The family he had once protected, with its sprawling mansion, its carefully constructed legacy, was unraveling at the seams, and Jason was helpless to stop it. Each day that passed brought new revelations, new fractures within the family. The discovery of Monica's secrets, long buried in the corners of their history, had acted as the spark that ignited the tension, but the fire that followed was more devastating than anyone could have predicted. With each family secret that surfaced, the distance between Jason and the rest of the Quartermains grew wider. Where there was once a shared bond, there was now distrust. The Quartermains, once a united front against the world, were now at war with each other. Tracy, ever the opportunist, had wasted no time exploiting the situation to her benefit. With the family in turmoil, she had skillfully manipulated every moment of chaos, positioning herself as the family's new matriarch. It was a role that had once seemed impossible for her to attain, a position that Jason had always assumed would be his by birthright. But Tracy, with her cold, calculating nature, had found a way to undermine both Drew and Jason, eliminating any threat to her claim to the family's power. Jason had always known that Tracy had ambition, but he had never expected her to go this far. She had played everyone, Drew, Monica, even Jason himself, like pawns in a game of chess, and now, with her fingers firmly grasping the Quartermain estate, she had claimed victory. For Jason, the realization stung like a raw wound. The woman he had once seen as a rival, as someone who was never truly part of the family, had outsmarted him. And now, as she sat at the helm of the family's empire, Jason was left to pick up the pieces of the broken Quartermain legacy. It wasn't just the loss of the estate that hurt Jason, it was the loss of his sense of belonging. The Quartermain name had always been more than just wealth, it had been his anchor, his connection to a family that was supposed to be united by blood. But now, as Jason watched Tracy claim control, he felt more like an outsider than ever before. The family that had once embraced him, that had once celebrated his every victory, was now nothing more than a collection of people fighting over scraps. Drew, too, was a casualty of Tracy's rise to power. Jason had always thought of Drew as a brother, someone with whom he had shared the burdens of the family. But now, Drew found himself pushed aside, his claim to the Quartermain fortune slipping away as Tracy's grip tightened. The betrayal Drew felt was palpable, a raw wound that would never fully heal. Like Jason, Drew had believed that he was entitled to the family's wealth and legacy. But in a single, calculated move, Tracy had stripped him of that entitlement, leaving him with nothing but shattered dreams. Jason's resentment toward Tracy festered, but it wasn't just her he was angry with. It was everyone. His family, the very people who had once been his closest allies, had all turned on him. Drew, Monica, even his own mother, had all played their parts in allowing Tracy to rise to power. The secrets Monica had kept hidden for so long were no longer just her burden, they were now a tool that had been wielded against the family. Each lie, each betrayal, had chipped away at the unity that once defined them, and Jason was left with nothing but the bitter realization that he had fought for a family that no longer existed. The more Jason thought about it, the more his anger grew. He had spent so many years trying to protect this family, trying to hold everything together, only to see it all slip through his fingers. He had been the one who had stood by Monica when no one else would, the one who had held the family together during times of crisis. And yet, now, in the wake of her secrets, Jason found himself standing alone, isolated from the very people he had once fought to protect. As Tracy consolidated her power, Jason's fury reached a boiling point. He had always been a man of action, someone who didn't hesitate to fight for what he believed was right. But now, with the Quartermain estate slipping away, he found himself questioning everything. What was the point of fighting for a family that didn't care about him? What was the point of protecting a legacy that no longer mattered? The more he thought about it, the more Jason realized that his fight wasn't just about power or wealth, it was about his identity, about who he was in a world that had become increasingly unrecognizable. The battle for the Quartermain estate had devolved into something much darker than anyone could have anticipated. It was no longer just a fight for wealth or power, it was a fight for survival, for self-preservation. Jason, once the unquestioned heir to the family's legacy, now found himself fighting not only against Tracy, but against the very people who had once been his closest allies. The family that he had spent his life protecting had turned against him, and there was no turning back. Jason stood at the center of this storm, torn between his loyalty to the family and his desire for retribution. His every decision felt like it would either cement his place in the family's future, or destroy him entirely. And with each passing day, as Tracy's influence grew stronger, Jason knew that the clock was ticking. He had to act quickly, or risk losing everything that had once mattered to him. But in the world of the Quartermains, where every move was calculated, every word was a weapon, and every family member was a potential enemy, Jason had no idea where his next move would lead. The only thing he knew for certain was that he was no longer fighting for a family, he was fighting for himself. The Quartermain family found itself standing on the precipice of a massive turning point, one that would reshape its future forever. The carefully constructed walls of privilege, power, and unity that had once defined this legendary family were now crumbling under the weight of secrets, greed, and betrayal. The looming presence of Monica, though physically absent from the daily squabbles, lingered like a shadow over everything. Monica, the matriarch, whose love and dedication to her family had been unwavering, was no longer able to face the storm that had been brewing in the background for years. Her health had deteriorated to the point where she could no longer lead the family as she once had. Yet, even in her weakened state, her legacy lived on, as powerful as ever, through the tangled web of lies and unfinished business that now threatened to consume the very foundations she had built. Monica had always prided herself on her ability to control the dynamics within the family. Over the years, she had been both a mother figure and a protector, taking on the responsibility of holding the Quartermaines together despite their many flaws and internal conflicts. She had faced loss, betrayal, and even death itself, yet she had always emerged, determined to ensure the survival of her family. But now, as the bitter truths of her past surfaced, it became clear that the legacy she had fought so hard to protect might also be the very thing that would tear the family apart. The secrets that had been hidden for so long, locked away in the deepest recesses of the family's history, had started to seep out, one by one. The revelation of Monica's darkest decisions and the choices she had made to protect her loved ones had shattered any illusions of a perfect family. With every secret unveiled, the bonds that had once tied the Quartermaines together began to unravel. The family, once united by blood and history, was now splintering in every direction. Each new truth brought with it a fresh wave of betrayal, mistrust, and suspicion, and every member of the Quartermaine family found themselves caught in a whirlwind of internal conflicts and power struggles. As the secrets of Monica's past were slowly revealed, each family member saw an opportunity for themselves, an opportunity to claim what they felt was rightfully theirs. The inheritance, the wealth, the influence that had once been exclusively Monica's, now became a battleground where every member of the family saw the potential to seize control. It wasn't just about money or property, it was about power, status, and legacy. The very essence of the Quartermaine family had become a commodity, something to be fought over, claimed, and protected. The battle for control over Monica's estate had begun in earnest, and no one was willing to back down. Drew, who had always believed that he was the rightful heir to Monica's legacy, found himself caught in the crossfire of this brutal war. His claim to the Quartermaine fortune, once seemingly secure, now felt fragile, easily threatened by the revelations that continued to pour out. Drew had spent his entire life fighting for a place within the Quartermaine family, but now, he was beginning to question whether that place had ever truly been his. Tracy, ever the opportunist, wasted no time in stepping into the power vacuum left by Monica's decline. With each piece of new information about Monica's past, Tracy saw a chance to finally claim the power that had always eluded her. She had watched from the sidelines for years as others held the reins of the family's power, but now, with the family in disarray, she moved in swiftly, taking advantage of every opportunity to solidify her control. Tracy was not the only one to seize this moment, however. Jason, too, felt the sting of betrayal as he watched his own place in the family's power structure become increasingly uncertain. For years, Jason had been the family's stalwart protector, the one who carried the weight of the Quartermaine legacy with a sense of duty and honor. He had fought for the family, for the estate, and for the future of the Quartermaine name. But now, as the family splintered and the secrets that had been kept for so long began to leak out, Jason found himself questioning whether his loyalty had been misplaced. His once unshakable belief in the family's unity was now eroded by the realization that, in the end, no one could be trusted, not even those who were supposed to be his closest allies. As the Quartermaines fought amongst themselves, it became clear that no one was immune from the fallout. Drew, Jason, Tracy, even those on the periphery of the family, everyone had a stake in the future of the Quartermaine estate, and no one was willing to concede without a fight. The inheritance that Monica had so carefully guarded now became the symbol of everything they had lost. It was no longer just about money, it was about survival, control, and power. The family that had once been united by love and shared history was now a fractured, divided entity, each member grappling with their own ambitions, fears, and insecurities. But the battle was not just about power, it was also about legacy. Monica's legacy was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it represented everything the Quartermaines had built, their wealth, their influence, their place in society.